Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 8, so I'm going to be talking about the best— Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 8, so I'm going to be talking about the best books that I read this year, according to Goodreads. This is not a repeat. On day 4, I did talk about my personal favorite books that I read this year, but today we're leaving it up to the public. Goodreads. I did a couple of videos this past year with the same topic, just for everything that I've read, and then I thought of bringing it to Bookmas, and I really loved that idea because it was a lot of fun to do. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is going to, I have a shelf on my Goodreads that is all the books that I have read in 2022, and I'm going to be ordering them by average rating. So this is always changing, but at the time of this video, these are going to be the highest rated books that I read this year. So essentially they're the books that other people on Goodreads also enjoyed a lot. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they were my favorites of the year though. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what people are thinking of the books that I read this year. I don't know, I think this is gonna be fun. And then of course tomorrow for Bookmas Day 9, I'm going to be doing this same thing, but the opposite, where it's going to be the worst books that I read this year according to Goodreads, which might be even more interesting to be honest. So it's gonna be the books that I read this year, essentially, that other people on Goodreads did not really enjoy that much, and they will have the lowest ratings. Obviously, this isn't the end all and be all, I just think it's kind of interesting. So before we get into the video, don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I'm going to be posting a new video every single day for the entire month of December, so you don't want to miss any of those. But without further ado, let's get into it. So I read 100 books this year, and I think I'll be maybe talking about the top 10, and I'll essentially go through, see what the average rating is, and then I'm going to maybe look at a couple of positive reviews and see what people had to say about these books. But also Goodreads takes forever to load, unfortunately, so there's going to be a lot of dead space for me editing because I need to wait for everything to load. Come on. I honestly have such a love-hate relationship with Goodreads because I use it for everything. It's so helpful for filming and keeping track of books. And I know that there's also Storygraph, and I have used Storygraph, I just haven't fully made the transition, but Goodreads can be so frustrating because it actually takes so long to do anything. It just, ugh. Also, I just realized I went to all of the books that I've read, and that may have been part of the problem because I was trying to sort 1,000 books, so that's fair, I'll give it to you. But now we just have my 2022 reads and it's still taking forever. Why are you the way that you are? Okay, we made it, finally. That took literally so long. So the best book that I read this year, according to Goodreads, was I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. This one was also rated by 33,000 other people, so that's a decent amount, and it has an average rating of 4.44 out of 5 stars. This one is actually a 2022 release, so it's kind of interesting to see this one so high up on the list, but I'm really glad that other people are enjoying this book as well because it was one of my favorite books of the year. I did include it on that list, and I'm such a huge fan of Ruta Sepetys in general. I think she is a fantastic writer. This one is set in communist Romania, if you guys are not familiar with it, but as one of the 5-star reviews says, how does Ruta Sepetys do it? How does she always create masterpieces? And that is exactly what she does. We have this review that is also 5 stars, and it just says, wow, just wow. I can understand. I'm so glad that other people are loving this book, to be honest. And to read one last review here, could not put it down. Grabbed me after a few chapters and kept me absorbed and on edge until the very end. So lots of 5 stars here. Very pleasantly surprised that that has been the top book, especially because I did read Colleen Hoover this year, but that's the highest rated one. Next is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owen. So I don't know, I had average feelings about this book, but this has been read by more than 2 million other people, and that's also not necessarily this year, by the way, because this book has been out for a little bit. I just think it's good to also take into account how many other people have rated it, because if you have 2 ratings and they're both 5 stars, obviously it's gonna be up there, you know what I mean? Anyways, this has an average rating of 4.43 out of 5 stars. Now, this came out as a movie this year, and I actually haven't seen the movie yet, although I am really wanting to see see it, but it definitely has become very popular because of its release as a movie. But for so many people, having read it to have such a high rating is actually very impressive. It's definitely one though that like, I felt like I was kind of missing something from it. So I wouldn't say that this was one of my best books of the year personally. It's kind of interesting though, because all the reviews that I'm seeing at the top are like 1 stars and 2 stars. So I'm kind of having trouble finding a 5-star. Okay, here's one. So memorable characters and memorable story, this review says, and one more because apparently I'm having trouble finding some for this book, but I can't get over how perfect this book is. The writing grabbed me from literally the first page and kept me entranced. And the story, how can your heart not help but ache for Kaya? I understand that. I definitely didn't really have the same experience though, because I think maybe because it was so hyped up and like so many people had seemed to love it, my expectations were higher than they should have been. Now, like I said, I read some Colleen Hoover this year, so the third best book that I read this year according to Goodreads is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I'm glad that it's this one, to be honest, because I did actually enjoy Verity, but this has more than 1 million ratings and it also has a 4.4 average rating. Verity was mind-blowing. Like honestly, it wasn't one of my favorite books of the year, but it did actually kind of come close to being on that list. It was a huge surprise for me because it's not a genre that I'm usually reading and it's not what I'm used to reading from Colleen Hoover either. But it was a pleasant surprise in a way, because like I hesitate to say that it was pleasant because it was just kind of mind-blowing. It's a book that like I can understand the shock of it, people being like, this deserves such a high rating because of the shock of it. And I'm not saying that's the only reason they're giving it a high rating, but like, it's a book that will stick with you and you want to like talk to other people about it. I'm trying to find some 5-star reviews and this one made me laugh. Why read Verity when you can just pull a Ouija board and summon a demon from hell? I'm sure it'll have the same effect. I finished this book feeling completely sapped of life, as if I've been bleeding freely for the past few hours instead of simply reading. That ending, what the hell? Yeah, honestly, I think that that review is the only one that I need to read because it pretty much sums everything up. It was just whoa. The fourth best book that I read this year according to Goodreads is one that I'm very happy to see on here, and that is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This has more than 200,000 ratings and it has an average rating of 4.38 stars. You guys know by now, like this was my second favorite book of the year, but also almost the first favorite. It completely took me by surprise with like how much I ended up loving it. But this is a historical fiction story. It's just like, it's really good. So to read one of the 5-star reviews, I absolutely loved this book. It was witty and gave me all types of feels, sad, happy, laughter, and just a mix of everything that makes a book great. And that's really true. This book hit so many levels. It wasn't just an educational story. It was like heartfelt, but it also could be like cute at times, but it wasn't all cute. Like, I guess that the author has said that the cover doesn't match what the book actually is. And I do agree with that. It doesn't, because it makes it seem kind of more like a cutesy romance, but it's much more than that. But it was a little bit of everything, honestly. Like, I thought this book was fantastic, and I'm really glad that other people did as well. The fifth best book that I read this year, according to Goodreads, is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. And I did actually really like this one, but this one has it's literally 1 rating away from 96,000 ratings, and it has an average rating of 4.36 out of 5 stars. Firekeeper's Daughter was really interesting, and this definitely like is a book that I will remember. It is an almost favorite for me, so I think I'll probably include that in that video later and I'll talk about it more then. That's like Bookmas Day 20 or something like that. But I am really happy to see like a story like this be rated so highly. This deals with Indigenous peoples and it was a lot different than what I was expecting. It's a mystery story, but like it's heartbreaking, and I felt like the writing and everything, it was beautifully done. So to read a 5 out of 5-star review, wow, Firekeeper's Daughter is one of those books that has so much hype that you go into it thinking there is no way it can live up to it, but it somehow surpasses it. And yeah, I would say like this book is deserving of all the hype. I didn't even actually know it was really hyped up, but I am glad that it is. The 6th best book that I read this year according to Goodreads is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. I did not enjoy this book as much as everyone else has, to be entirely honest. So this has almost 74,000 ratings, and it has an average rating of 4.36 out of 5 stars. Personally, I didn't understand the hype for this one. I didn't really like it because I didn't find much happened, and I know it's like a webtoon, so that might be why, but I don't know. I felt like the volume could have been bigger, so then like more was happening, because it just didn't feel like much happened. And just like a personal thing, I didn't really care for the art style. Like, it wasn't my personal favorite, but lots of you have really enjoyed it, which is great for you. That sounds really sassy, but I really don't mean it in a sassy way. I mean, I do know people like really love a Hades and Persephone retelling, so maybe that's where all the hype is coming from. I don't know. It's just one personally wasn't for me, but other people, so they are saying, I'm obsessed immediately. Why did I not read this sooner? No wonder people call this the ultimate Hades and Persephone retelling. I don't know, like I don't get what I'm missing with this one. It's very frustrating for me. I can't say I'm surprised that this next one is on here, but the 7th best book that I read this year, according to Goodreads, is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So this has, oh, I'm surprised that it only has that many ratings, to be honest. I mean, it's still a big number, but I thought it would have more just because Colleen Hoover has been everywhere, and this book in particular, but it has like 1,800,000 ratings. I mean, more than that, but I'm just like rounding. But it has an average rating of 4.35 out of 5 stars. This wasn't one of my favorite books that I read this year. It is a book that I read this year that like I liked, but it's kind of one that I don't really know how I feel about it. It's definitely super hyped up. So like I said, not surprised that it's on here. This is definitely one where you're gonna have like polar opposites, where because it's so popular, it's gonna have people who love it or hate it. And I mean, most people actually seem to love it. Like, even when I'm scrolling through reviews, usually for a book like this that's kind of like not controversial, but kind of controversial, the 1-star reviews will be first, but I'm getting 5-star ones first. For example, I think this is a solid review for it. I am a mess, torn, and so goddamn conflicted. Broken over the what ifs of this book, filled with sorrow and proud. I feel manipulated, tricked, heartbroken, educated, thankful, and mind effed. I don't want to be demonetized, I'm sorry. I say that word all the time, but I just don't want to risk it. It Ends With Us is nothing like anything I've ever read, and it certainly isn't like any other novel Colleen Hoover has written. And I do think that's true. Like, this book was so unexpected. I didn't know until going into it that like it deals with abuse at the forefront, and it still was kind of like unexpected for me. It just wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be, which is exactly what unexpected means. But yeah, it was a really interesting experience. The 8th best book that I read this year, according to Goodreads, is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This has almost 75,000 ratings, and it has an average rating of 4.35 out of 5 stars. This book has been everywhere. It has been so hyped up, and I mean, I liked it. I definitely found it was personally overhyped for me. Like, I felt like I was going to be blown away, and I just wasn't. And I do blame that entirely on like all of the hype for it. I was just so expecting. Everyone had seemed to love it, so I thought I was gonna be completely blown away. And yeah, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more, and I maybe would have been blown away if I hadn't had like those expectations going into it. But to give you some reviews, add this book to your summer reading list because you are not going to want to miss this one. And another person says, loved it, perfect, heartbreaking, nostalgic, and I wanted more. I understand there's definitely nostalgia to the story. It was heartbreaking. It wasn't perfect for me. And I'm really sad about this one because I think I would have liked it a lot more. I kind of lost count, but I think we were at the 8th book. So the 8th best book that I've read this year, according to Goodreads, is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This was actually my personal #1 favorite book of the year, but this has more than 180,000 ratings, and the average rating is 4.32 out of 5 stars. This is a childhood friends to lovers romance set in Canada. It was really great. I liked it a lot. But I think this review sums it up. One of my new favorite books of all time. I will be recommending this all summer long. If you read one book this season, it needs to be this one. Literal perfection. It was really good. Like, I did really love it. The 9th best book that I read this year, according to Goodreads, is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I'm really sad about this one because I didn't personally like this one all that much. Like, I was let down. I think once again, it's one that I was really hyped up for. But this one has almost 40,000 ratings and it has an average rating of 4.27 out of 5 stars. I just found the story to be like slow for me. I never really got into it and then it was kind of forgettable. I honestly can't really pinpoint like what the issue was, but I do really enjoy Elizabeth Lim and her writing, so I am glad that other people have loved it so much. So this person says, a stunning remake of a fairy tale. Six Crimson Cranes is the perfect blend of whimsy and ferociousness, with twists and turns that will tug at your heartstrings. I wanted it to be that for me, but it just wasn't. And finally, the 10th best book that I read this year according to Goodreads. Once again, not super surprised by this one showing up on here, but that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This one was so hyped up on TikTok for a while there, but it has almost 800,000 ratings and it has an average rating of 4.27 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy this one, didn't really blow me away, but I do understand why people are loving it and I am glad that they are loving it. Like, I'm glad that a romance story with representation for women in STEM is getting so hyped up. I think that's really nice. So this person says that the hype surrounding this one is real. This was the swooniest story and this book even made my science-loathing heart soar. I did have a lot of fun with this one. Like, I did love it, but definitely kind of once again one where the hype makes it suffer a little bit. Okay, so those are the top 10 best books that I read this year according to Goodreads. I feel like, does that sentence make sense? Like, does that title make sense? I think it does. It's so hard to put like a concept like this into just a few words, but whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Tomorrow for Bookmas Day 9, I'm going to be doing, like I said, the opposite, where I'm going to be looking at the worst books that I read this year according to Goodreads. So that's gonna be, I think, even more interesting because I really have no clue what is going to be on that list, except for one. I know one that is going to be on there. But yeah, I will see you tomorrow for that video. Bye!